U.S. continuing to provide key assistance to Ukraine as the country battles Putin's all-out assault. The Biden administration opting to send armed Switchblade drones to Ukraine, but retired general and former CIA director David Petraeus says those small explosive drones are not enough, or they're not to be underestimated, I should say.
Those could be game changers, and those could really augment these counterattacks by the Ukrainian forces as they push further out of Kyiv.
All right, let's bring in retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Darin Gaub, international military strategist, co-founder of Restore Liberty, and former Black Hawk helicopter pilot. Well, Colonel, first of all, do you agree with General Petraeus? Are these Switchblade drones a game changer? I mean, do they give Ukrainian forces the edge they need?
Hey, Arthel, thanks for having me on. And I do agree with him ultimately that this type of a system and others like it in cost and size could be a huge game changer across Ukraine. The cost of a MiG-29 compared to things like a Switchblade and javelins and Stinger missiles is significant, and you could put a lot of those smaller, lighter, more easy to move systems into Ukraine a lot faster than you could the bigger things.
Well, then, as you know, as Russia is retreating from Kyiv and preparing for an intensified attack on the Donbas region, which of course includes Mariupol, that's the trophy for Putin. Even though they are currently at a disadvantage there, can the drones help Ukrainian forces fight Russia in or over Mariupol, or do they need more of these fighter jets like President Zelensky keeps requesting?
I think it's not necessarily an either or. I think it could be a process of both. But you start with the smaller systems that are faster to move into country, that are easier to train people on, and easier to employ as a result. And they're a lot less expensive. You know, when they come in their complete kit, they're not that expensive relative to a large fighter jet. Those things could come, but a MiG-29 on an airfield with a logistics tail behind it that is significant compared to those smaller items is much harder to defend and sustain in a fight than those smaller items are. And frankly, with one day, most of those systems, you can train almost anybody in how to use them at a basic level. But a Switchblade will help with that as part of a package of small, light, less expensive systems that are easier to use.
Right, and easier to transport to get it to the Ukrainian forces, I'd imagine. And then so as, right, and as Russia is withdrawing again ground forces from Kyiv, here's what President Zelensky says lies in the wake. He says they are mining the whole territory. They are mining homes. Mining equipment, even the bodies of people who were killed. There are a lot of tripwires, a lot of other dangers. So, Colonel, I ask you, you're an international military strategist. How can the Ukrainian forces adjust to this scenario?
It's difficult, to say the least, especially since you're dealing with an urban environment. That's the hardest environment to fight in of any of them. And it causes a lot of problems for soldiers that are moving, especially now that they're transitioning over to the offense and moving a lot. You don't know what to trust. The best comparison that we could have as a U.S. military is to use look at the IED threat that we saw in Afghanistan and Iraq. Every single thing that you see could be a device used to maim or kill soldiers on the ground. So it's going to slow them down for sure. And I think Russia would be looking to use that to their advantage, to force them to slow down and take their time to move through these areas where they may not have before.
And here's another thing, Colonel. Last Thursday, Putin ordered 134,500 conscripts to fight in his war against Ukraine, men ages 18 to 27, to fight in his war against Ukraine for 12 months. So what happens when Ukraine needs more fighters?
Well, I think one of the things that we are first seeing on the ground and talking to people over in Russia and Ukraine is the fact that the conscripts in Russia are doing a lot of things to themselves specifically and physically to not have to be conscripted into this army in this fight that they don't really want to be a part of. And I think as they see more and more of the casualties coming back from Ukraine, the people of Russia are going to be less tolerant of what's going on there in the first place. As far as Ukraine is concerned, I think they've got an entire population of people, for the most part, that is ready and willing to fight for their nation. We've lost a lot of folks into Poland and other portions of Europe, but they're on their home turf, and they are motivated to continue this fight. And they're getting a lot of volunteers to come and help them as well. And I don't think that the volunteerism will stop anytime soon.
Well, that's good to hear. They are heroic. I want to ask you really quickly a serious question, loaded question with a short time for answer. Is there anything that can stop Putin from his atrocious, horrific attack? I mean, what can stop him?
I think an out-and-out victory at some point by Ukraine is the only way it's going to ever stop. Until it's just one of those things that Russia does, unfortunately, and until he's kicked out of that country, I don't see it stopping anytime soon.
Retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Darin Gaub, we thank you. We'll leave it there. We'll have you again another time, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.